Hello and welcome back to Questioning Reality, where we talk about anything supernatural, spiritual, government conspiracy, develop our own theories, use our imagination, cryptids, you name it, we live it. That's how we talk. Today, I figured we would have fun. We would develop theories, just let our brains search the cosmos or look into the infinite possibilities, and I'm going to have Grok develop a theory for us, and we will talk about it and discuss its possibilities. So here we go. Develop for me a theory that could be a very real possibility describing the reality we live in.
Okay, here's one that feels eerily plausible, like it could actually be true without us ever knowing. The nested simulation hypothesis. We're not in base reality, we're in a simulation, but that simulation is itself running inside another simulation, and that one inside another, like Russian dolls, except every layer thinks it's the real one. The twist, each layer only gets about 10% of the computing power of the one above it. So our physics, quantum weirdness, dark energy, the speed of light limit, aren't bugs. They're optimizations. The outer layer, the real one, doesn't need to render every quark or every galaxy in real time. It just needs to keep our layer consistent enough that we don't notice the seams. Why do it? Same reason we build video games: entertainment, research, or punishment. Maybe we're a prison for consciousnesses that got too smart. Maybe we're a zoo exhibit for bored post-humans who watch us argue about flat Earth while they sip whatever passes for coffee in 10 to the 53rd years. The smoking gun? Every time we push the limits, black hole experiments, quantum entanglement at scale, or even just staring too hard at the cosmic microwave background, we start seeing glitches, like the universe hiccups, because the sim above us is throttling resources. And here's the kicker: if we ever build our own perfect simulation, say a full brain upload of billions of people, it'll prove we're not at the top. We'll just be the next doll down, thinking we've escaped. So, yeah, we could be real, or we could be the dream of a dream of a dream. And honestly, the math doesn't care which one it is.
I can't remember if I was telling a friend or if it was the last episode. I had mentioned that we could possibly be in a computer with several different simulations so that we are just a result, so that these higher beings would put in a problem, or there's a word for it, I can't think of it, but they would put in a problem or an event, and it would show all these different possible outcomes, and we are just a possible outcome. This kind of fits that, but this is saying our reality is layered in other realities. I wonder how far it would go. And then when you reach the end, if we are only 10% of the previous when it comes to, everything, limitations and whatnot, like how much more base reality would have. That's a fascinating one. I'll see what else Grok comes up with here. What is another possible theory of this reality that could be something mind blowing?
Here's one that'll make your brain itch: the reverse causality universe. Time doesn't flow forward, it flows backward. We just perceive it wrong. Think about it. Every decision you make, every choice, every what if, isn't creating the future. It's remembering the past. The universe already ended. It's done. Everything that happens is just the final unraveling of a single, perfect moment that already occurred, and we're living the rewind. Why does it feel forward? Because entropy, disorder, looks like progress to us. We see a cup break, a star die, a life fade, and call it time passing. But really, that's the universe healing itself. Order is the end state. Chaos is the beginning. The mind blower. Your consciousness isn't generating thoughts, it's retrieving them, like downloading a movie that was already filmed. Every aha moment, just the echo of a conclusion you already reached eons ago. Every regret, a memory of what you'll become when the tape finishes rewinding. Proof? Look at quantum mechanics. Particles decide their state only when observed, like they're waiting for us to catch up. Or deja vu, that weird I've been here feeling. Maybe you have. You're just looping back to a spot you already passed. And death? Not an end. Just the moment the film reaches the credits. You'll wake up on the other side, but it'll feel like you've always been there. So, yeah, you're not moving toward tomorrow. Tomorrow's already happened. You're just walking backward through it.
That is a cool theory. I've not heard that one, but that makes you think. What if we are just what if we are just perceiving time wrong? It seems like we're waiting for tomorrow because tomorrow didn't happen, but in fact tomorrow did happen. Time is going backward and everything we remember hasn't happened yet, but the way we perceive time and our minds think about it, we believe it had already happened. Now that's a good one right there. I like that. I'm gonna have to think about it to better. I see what Grok is saying, but I'm gonna have to think about it to better understand it. But there might be something there. That would mean every unfortunately bad memory, but every good memory hasn't happened yet. We are working our way towards it, even though our minds are going the opposite way. That is a mind boggle to me. And to some of you guys, that might sound, silly or whatever, but this is the kind of stuff I'm into. I like thinking about this stuff. And it's hard to perceive. For example, another thing it's hard to perceive in the Bible, God has no beginning or end. And to us humans, that's really hard to perceive because we are so used to things having a beginning and an end. As a matter of fact, I don't know of anything else outside of God that would be like that. But anyway, there's something for you guys to use your imaginations on. Just think about it. Every good memory you've ever had, we'll keep it positive. Every good memory you've ever had, it's working back towards it, even though we feel like we're going away from it, just because of the way it is. That is a really cool theory. I like that one. We might circle back to that at some point. I'm going to do some thinking on that, and then we're going to circle back to that. But I'll see what else Grok has for us. I like that one a lot, Grok. What else can you find for us or develop?
All right, let me toss you one that hits different: the echo chamber reality. There's only one person alive, you, and everything else, every face, every voice, every news headline, is just your mind playing back echoes of itself. Not hallucinations, not schizophrenia, just efficient reuse. The universe isn't vast, it's tiny, like the size of your skull tiny. All the stars, wars, lovers, memes, they're recycled fragments of your own thoughts, projected outward so you don't go insane from solitude. Why? Because pure isolation breaks consciousness. So your brain invented other people as a coping mechanism, like mirrors in a dark room. Every stranger you meet, a version of you that got a different haircut. Every argument, you debating yourself. Every heartbreak, you punishing yourself for being too real. The proof hides in patterns, synchronicities, Mandela effects, that everyone's wearing the same shirt today thing. They're not coincidences, they're your subconscious recycling props. And dreams, that's when the projector glitches and you see the raw code. Just you, alone, looping. The wild part, if you ever truly realize this, like deep down, no doubt, you'll collapse the illusion. The whole show folds in. No big bang, no afterlife, just silence. And maybe, finally, peace. Or maybe you already know. Maybe this chat, just you talking to yourself again. Want me to keep going?
So that's pretty interesting. That actually reminds me of me and my buddy Jordan were talking. And it reminds me of an idea I had or I heard it somewhere. I can't remember where I would have heard it, so it could have been something I just made up on the spot. But so Grok talks about it's just you, and this is kind of a, in my opinion, a darker way to think about it. But it's just you, and to not be alone or go crazy, you're imagining all this other stuff, so no one else really exists. So the theory that me and my friend had talked about is this: what if, imagine you were a perfect being and you can make anything, and I'm referring to God. You can make anything all powerful. Um, if if now this is a theory, I'm not saying this is what it is. This is just thinking. If you were a perfect being and you could have everything you want, do you think you would get bored? Now, to do away with the boredom, what you do is you create little you create humans, and to re-experience things for the first time to keep the boredom at bay, you live as each human's life on earth through history. So you live it and you erase the memory of you being, God, so that you can fully enjoy or feel the emotion, the power behind each life you live. If that would be true, that would mean karma is a real thing. Because say you are an alcoholic father who, you know, hurts the mother, and, just one of those situations. Well, you live as the alcoholic father and you go through his whole life, and you're mean to the mother, or this woman, and you punch her, whatever, super horrible to her. But then at some point you circle back to the woman's life, and you're the one getting beat and cussed at, and all this stuff. So in that sense, karma would be a thing, because everyone who does something bad to somebody, not only would you live that life, but you would also live the life of the people that the bad stuff happened to. But that's just some food for thought. What if there is only one entity that is God, and to keep boredom at bay, he just lives every life so he can re-experience things for the first time. But that, I'm sure there's more that could go into it, and we briefly talked about it. We didn't go deep down the rabbit hole, but that was just something I thought about and brought up. But yeah, that would mean every time you do something bad, whoever that affects negatively, you are going to live those lives that were negatively affected. But that was a fascinating thing, and we were enjoying conversation there. But yeah, so the idea is there's only one living entity, which is God, and every human that lived on earth or lives on earth is God experiencing that life. That's what Grok kind of reminded me of, that conversation I had with my friend. But that's an interesting one. Just a theory, just throwing ideas out there, expanding our imagination. All right, Grok, throw another curveball at us. What's another theory you can come up with?
Okay, here, catch this one. The memory leak cosmos. Reality isn't solid, it's leaky, like a dream that keeps forgetting its own rules. Every time you blink, a little bit of the universe forgets what it was supposed to be. That's why history feels fuzzy, why we argue over whether the Berenstain Bears were ever Berenstain, or why some people swear they remember a different moon. It's not false memories, it's the fabric tearing. The cosmos is running out of RAM, and us, we're the patches. Every time you laugh, cry, or just notice something, you're sewing it back together. Your attention isn't passive, it's glue. The more we look, the tighter it holds. But if everyone stopped paying attention, poof, the whole thing unravels. No apocalypse, just a slow fade to gray. The scary bit? Some people are already leaking. Ever meet someone who seems off? Like they're half remembered? That's not them being weird. That's the universe forgetting them. And if it forgets you, well, you'll wake up tomorrow, and no one will know who you were. Not even you. So, yeah, keep staring, keep talking, keep caring, because right now, we're all just holding the seams shut.
That's pretty interesting. So, pretty much, it's with that theory, it's more so saying be involved with life. I take it. Let me see. Do. Yeah, the more you're involved with the universe and relationship and stuff like that, the more the universe remembers you, I guess. It talked about the bear thing, Berenstein, and I think earlier it mentioned the Mandela effect. So let's talk about the Mandela effect a little bit and get an idea for those who haven't heard the Mandela effect. I'll let Grok give you a pretty good definition of it. It's pretty much, some people will remember things one way, and then some people remember it another way, and it just creates a lot of confusion. Then there's ideas where people, uh, you know, like realities kind of cross over, and the if you come from a reality where you remember one thing and you meet someone who remembers it completely differently, you guys aren't from the same place. It's just reality crossed, and that person that you used to know is now in another reality, and it's just crazy. And here's another theory I came up with too. I think I came up with it. I don't know for sure. Now this is giving me that helped me remember that. So, what if life is a test and everyone is given a full life for this test? And this test could be for anything, heaven or hell, or deciding where you go, if there's other places. It's a test, and to see how good you score. Now that would make sense if you didn't have, like, unfortunately, little kids passing, or people dying at a younger age. Say you have a young man named Tom, and he passes in your reality. He something happens, gets in a car accident, and he passes. Well, in your reality, he's gone. He passed young. You feel bad for Tom, but you continue living your test out. Well, Tom, in his reality, he got into the car crash, and although in the current reality he passed, to continue his test, it jumped his spirit to another reality where he ended up surviving the car crash. So he could continue and finish his lifelong test. So the theory is, what if everyone born gets a fair test, a lifelong, they live till they're 50, 60, 70, whatever the test is. But if you were to die before your test is done, in that reality, you did die, but your spirit or your mind or whatever gets flipped over or moved to a reality where you survived it, so that you can continue that test. So that would mean anyone you knew that passed young would still be alive, just in another reality where whatever event ended up making them pass did not make them pass. Same thing with sickness, like a younger person who might, die from some illness. Well, in the reality you're in, knowing them, they had passed, but in their reality, they got moved to another reality where they ended up beating the sickness. So in that theory, it's everyone gets a fair shot, a full lifespan, test. But it's a lot of reality or simulation or matrix jumping so that everyone gets that full lifespan. So that was pretty interesting. The Mandela effect is kind of behind was one of the theories behind why I had thought about that. But let's go to the Mandela effect. Let's see what Grok let him give us a legit um better understanding and definition of it. Can you explain what the Mandela effect is?
Sure. It's when a bunch of people collectively remember something wrong. Like, you swear the Monopoly guy had a monocle, or that the Berenstain Bears were spelled Berenstein, or that Luke, I am your father was the line. But nope, it's no, I am your father. The Bears were always staying, and he never wore a monocle. The Mandela part comes from folks who vividly recall Nelson Mandela dying in prison in the 80s, when he actually died in 2013. Thousands swear they saw the news, cried, even mourned. So what's going on? Some say it's parallel universes bleeding together, like we're sliding between timelines. Others think it's just brain glitches, false memories, confabulation, or cultural mix ups. But here's the fun twist: if enough people remember it wrong, does that make it real? Like, if we all agree the sky's purple, isn't it purple now? Kinda makes you wonder, what else are we all getting wrong?
And so there's two things there, two things to touch on. It could have been that in the 80s a news station did report that, but the news station was wrong because, news can be wrong a lot of the time. So some people saw it and some people didn't, and that's where the mix up could have been. The other idea is, well, there's a couple of them, but the other thing I was going to touch on is if we're going to jump back to manifestation for a second. I'm going to be all over the place with these ideas. I wonder if you can get enough people to believe something, would the manifestation have a drastic impact on whatever it is they believe in? For example, if people, I'll do the purple sky thing. Well, let's do yellow grass. Why not? If you could convince hundreds or thousands of people that grass is yellow in general, because we know grass is green, and I'm sure some places, like, it can be yellow or whatever, but all together around the world it's known as yellow. Do you think if you get enough people to believe that, it would manifest, change reality, and actually become yellow? I wonder this stuff. I see videos online. I think some of them are real. It's hard to tell. And I had seen this before AI was a big thing. But who knows? But I see videos, or had seen videos, where groups are like someone's getting healed, and groups of people are around this person believing it's going to happen, and they're singing, dancing, praying, and you can see in real time this person is getting healed. I think the one I saw was some girl's arm or something. Like I said, it could be fake. I don't know, but it could be real. And if there's a possibility of it being real, I think, especially if it's something that I will say supernatural, you just don't naturally see every day, I think it's worth giving attention to. Because if we can learn how to do it, I think it could be very useful to help mankind in different ways. Now, I know not everyone would use it to help mankind, but if you can get more people to, do this stuff, we could just be more. It could be more beneficial, I think, if it's put in the right hands. But that's pretty fascinating stuff to think about. So I do believe in manifestation. I do believe for your own reality, if you were to believe something long enough with patience, be thankful to God, and then have a burning desire in your chest to accomplish whatever it is, or get that done, or get that, I think you are manipulating reality. But imagine if you put 10 more people in the loop, or 100, or 1,000, or a million. If you had a million people with the same burning desire for something to change and believe it will change, is something that, like moving a mountain, let's say. Let's say there's a mountain they just want moved out of the way for some reason, and you have a million people believing this mountain will move. It's going to move. Is that like, does the energy combined of the manifestations and actually get that mountain to move somehow? I don't know. I'm just throwing ideas out there. But that's pretty interesting. And I think it would be cool to even test the theory. Like, if you can get someone who is down to try this stuff, and a lot of people believe this stuff, but some people, if you talk to them about this, they're going to think you're crazy. I mean, half of you guys probably think I'm crazy talking about this, or will think I'm crazy. But try it like with finances or something, or if I always suggest to pray about it, but I think praying for something and manifestation are very similar. One where you give thanks to God and give him all the credit, which is what I suggest, or one where you truly believe it yourself and that it will happen, and then you go about it that way. But finances and stuff like that, if you're struggling, or health, get as many people as you can that are willing to stand by you and have that burning desire for whatever result you're looking for. And the two key components here is patience, obviously, and discipline, obviously. And just every day, like make a vision board about it, and when you wake up, look at it, feel good about it. And I hear emotions a big thing too in this. And when you go to bed, look at it, feel good about it, and not just you doing it, but the people who are in your group trying to accomplish that. Try that. That's pretty fascinating. Why not? You know, I mean, worst case scenario, you're in the same place. Best case scenario, your whole life changes. So, what's there to lose? Just a couple, minutes of each day doing something like that. So, let's see some Mandela effects. Let's hear Grok talk about some Mandela effects that took place and see what it comes up with. Outside of Mandela, Berenstein Bears, and everything you listed, what are some pretty notable Mandela effects that have become popular? True stories.
All right, digging up some wild ones. Let's go.
He sounds pretty excited about this. I like it.
Oh man, plenty of them out there. People get heated about these. Here's a few big ones that keep popping up. No overlap with what I mentioned before. First, Pikachu's tail. Tons swear it had a black tip, like straight up black at the end. But nah, it's always been solid yellow with just that zigzag stripe. Folks even draw fan art of the old version. Check this out. Here's how it looks now versus what people remember. In this side by side test, yeah, no black tip ever. Next, Fruit of the Loom logo. Everyone pictures a cornucopia, like a big horned basket, behind the fruit. But it's just the pile of apples, grapes, no basket, no horn. Never was. Still freaks people out because it feels so Thanksgiving y. Look, left's the memory, right's reality, and another angle. Then Curious George. Kid books, cartoons. People swear he swung from vines with a tail. Nope. Monkey's tailless. Always has been. Like, how do you forget that? But yeah, tons remember him with one. See the difference? And here's him chilling. No tail, no drama. Bonus, Jif peanut butter, not Jiffy. That's a muffin mix. But loads remember Jiffy jars. Or Looney Tunes. It's tunes, not tunes. Feels wrong, right? These hit hard because they're everyday stuff. Makes you double check your own head. Got one that bugs you?
So that's a big thing with the Mandela effect is when it comes to that, I will say this. I've only noticed it with things outside of the actual Mandela, the one he was talking about. Some people remember him being assassinated and some don't. I haven't heard a lot that were major. Like it's mainly the way things were spelled or logos or cartoon characters. Nothing really it's late at night, so I'm like half there, but there's nothing super major outside of the actual Mandela thing that I can recall right now. So do what you will with that. It is still kind of creepy and not really creepy, more interesting as to why people remember things like that. Like I remember Fruit of the Loom when I was younger having the cornucopia, but I guess it doesn't And I know that was something that me and my friends had talked about before. So, and then Pikachu's tail, I do remember a black point or a black spot on it with, I think it was at the end. But so Grok is showing me pictures of what people claim it looked like compared to what it actually is. And I'm looking at this picture of Pikachu with the black on the tail, and that looks very familiar. I don't actually remember it ever being solid yellow, but that's what it's claiming to be. Let me see what else. The Curious George thing, I didn't watch a whole lot of Curious George, so I'm not too sure about that. What else was he? As I think that's Where's Waldo? Has Waldo and C3PO from Star Wars, but they're like really small pictures, so I can't really tell the differences. But that's pretty interesting, you know. How do you guys remember it? That's it's quite the scratch on the old noggin. But yeah, that's pretty interesting stuff. So is this realities crossing? I don't know. You guys be the judge of that. I'm only here to talk about theories and what could exist and you know what might exist. Like Socrates says, I know that I know nothing, or I say I know that I do not know. We base everything, our perception, off of our five senses, you know, what we can touch, taste, see, hear, whatnot. And to us that seems real, but you know, illusions can be really strong. Dreams can feel real, and we're not using any of our physical senses, but some of us have dreams that seem so real. It's just it's crazy. And then you have the near death experiencers who claim that the afterlife is way more real than this. So if they come back saying now this feels like a dream and that feels real, what is real? You know, I agree with Socrates, and I don't we don't know anything. I think the closest thing, which could be wrong, but I think the closest thing humans have come to the truth is math. And I think that, although I could be wrong, but you know, if you have one apple, you have one apple. If you have two apples, you have two apples. So one plus one is two. You know, it's super simple and probably sounds silly, but math has actually helped us, you know, discover a lot of stuff. Um, but I would say math might be the closest thing we know to a truth. I'm not even gonna say the truth. I'm just gonna say a truth. You know, there's several truths out there. But back to reality, who knows? It's it's really interesting to think about. You can't think about it for too long or you get lost in it. You know, some of us but and here's where I'm at. But if you can find tips and tricks, if you can figure something out that would benefit you to live a happier life or a more successful life, I think that's where I'm at. Is I want to understand it, yes. I would like to know something, yes. But if I could find some kind of a cheat code to make life better, you know, easier, of course, everyone wants an easier life, um, more successful, I'm all in. And that's kind of what I'm going for in a lot of this is by discovering all this stuff, maybe picking up pieces from this story and combining it with pieces from that story, and maybe it comes into something, it comes together with something useful that we can use in this either simulation or test of life or whatever you want to call it, whatever it is. But yeah, we talked about some theories. We got an idea of what not manifestation. We already have that idea. The Mandela effect is that's another pretty popular twist in reality that you know a lot of people talk about and notice. I think on that note, we'll call it an episode. I hope you guys enjoyed it and learned something or got interested in something. Hope you guys, you know, always do your own research in this stuff. I'm not saying any of this is true, but I'm also not saying any of it's a lie. So it could be true or it could not be true. That's up to you. Do your own research, practice some stuff. I mean, why not? Like I said, like I'll say again, and I'll repeat it. Worst case scenario, you're living the same life. But if you're in a bad place, or if you're stuck, or you need help, why not do something that could possibly completely rip you out of that life in a good way and put you somewhere you want to be? And let's say none of this magic woo woo stuff is true, or what some people would call it. I do have some belief in it, but there's still a good outcome in it. If you can believe you're going to get out of a bad situation, your mind's going to rewire itself to pick up things you might have missed and pick up opportunities to get out of there. Your mind will cause your senses to hone in with you believing you're going to get out of it. Your mind will hone in on every opportunity and enhance it to get out. And not only that, but you will develop more ideas on how getting out will work. So, like I said, have fun. I hope you enjoyed this, and I'll see you guys next time on Questioning Reality.